characters begin their journeys in the world of myth as sort of an idea that eventually becomes a story in and of itself. This is the world of myth. Hi, I'm Ross Watson, lead designer on Myth Tales of Legend.
And I'm James DeFogie, and I'm the lead writer on Myth Tales of Legend.
And today we're doing more character creation.
Woo!
Last episode, JM created Haldren the Merciful, a human soldier. And we are now going to create a character for me where JM's going to guide me through the process. And hopefully you'll learn a little bit more about how character creation in Myth Tales of Legend works. We are very interested to see your comments. Mm-hmm. Please don't hesitate to drop one below if you have an idea or if you'd like to hear something, hear about something more specific in the world of myth.
We would love to interact with you and kind of hear your thoughts on it. So,
and now JM's going to take me on a journey.
All right. So, much like last time, we're going to start with. So, what species do you want to play here, Ross? Kind of what out of all of the ones we have in myth, what stands out to you?
Okay, I have to be honest, I'm really enjoying playing a Tavian in the Lost Barrow game. Mm-hmm. The Tavians are these mongoose-like people. We have a whole episode devoted to talking about them and where they're from, which is this place called Huvanasi. And they have kind of an Asian feel to their culture and everything, and they're just really cool. They're also super quick, which is nice.
Yeah,
and they get a +1. They get a +1 to defense, which no other species actually gets as a thing. So I am going to play a Tavian because I dig it. I dig it a lot.
All right. So the first thing then after picking your species. So are you going to play male or female?
I'm going to play a male.
All right. And then are you one of the Four Kingdom Tavians where your parents or your grandparents came here with kind of the initial arrival of the Tavians, or have you arrived more recently from Huhanasi?
I think I'm going to leave that open for now because I have an idea of what I want to do for background.
Okay.
But we will see.
We'll cycle back around to that. All right.
Yeah, we'll cycle back around to that. Because I'm a Tavian, I get speed 5.
You do, which is huge.
I'm quick.
Yeah.
Which is it's a big deal. Like that's a lot of dice for initiative, and it's a good amount of movement.
Right. So. Now you also will get either a +1 to strength or a +1 to will. Do you have an idea of which one you want yet, or do you want to pick your archetype first?
I think, well, I have an idea of what I want from archetype already. I believe I'm going to go with will on that.
All right.
I think a character that I'm thinking of, like this guy, is probably going to have a slightly stronger willpower. And honestly, there's enough things in myth that cause fear and courage tests, which you're going to have to are somewhat based on will. I think it's important to have a good will.
Okay.
So I'm going to do that.
All right, and then you should also note down that you have a hatred of the Naga.
Yes, of course I do, and of course they hate me.
They do. So they're going to prioritize. Naga will prioritize you in combat at the start, and you get a +2 difficulty penalty to all interaction tests against the Naga.
They just don't want to listen. I don't know why. I just, long history of the blood between us.
That's right.
Yes, the hatred of the Naga.
So next step 2 is choosing your archetype. Now you said you had an idea of what you wanted to play.
Yes.
Because in the Lost Barrow, you play the Tavian monk.
Yes. I kind of blurted it out actually in the last episode, but I was thinking about a swashbuckler.
Oh, all right.
I think swashbucklers are really neat. And my interpretation of this is going to be a little bit like a pirate. Like he's a guy that's been, maybe not, like maybe he, I don't know. We'll figure it out when we get to the background whether he is or isn't a pirate. But maybe he's inspired by them. But I like that style. I like the idea that this is a guy who, at least, if nothing else, he dresses like a pirate.
Okay. Well, so you're actually going to start then. So the soldier got a bonus to either fighting or shooting. You don't actually get a skill bonus from being a swashbuckler. No. But as long as you're wearing light or no armor and wielding a melee weapon in one hand, your defense is going to be even higher because you're going to get another +1 to it. So you're going to be really hard to hit. It's right.
It's glass cannon time. Actually, Kennekin, my monk, has a very similar ability, and he is also a glass cannon. But I like that. But in this case, I'm actually going to be a swashbuckler rather than a monk, which is important. There's a distinction to be made there.
Now, the other thing you get as a swashbuckler is like a read in the wind. Unless you're immobilized or restrained, you get to substitute your agility for any soak rolls that you make.
And I'm going to have a high agility, so I'm basically making a dex tank in a slightly different way.
Awesome. All right.
I can already imagine that this guy and what was your character's name? Harald?
Haldren.
I imagine Haldren and my guy are going to be very, buddy cops on the front line doing things in very different ways. And even better, I synergize with your.
You do. I was just thinking that, like, you're already hard to hit, and if you're standing next to me, you're even harder to hit.
Harder to hit. Yeah, the GM's going to have a nightmare. He's going to be like, "Oh my god, what do I do with these guys?" Because I'll be on your side going, ha ha, oh, ha ha.
We'll definitely need to talk with the rest of the party because we are really setting the defense difficulty high for the GM, and so if they're not careful, the GM may be like, well, I have to increase the toughness for these two guys, and
well, there's a lot of ways around that. I mean, interaction attacks are a great way for the GM. You can just intimidate us into vulnerable positions.
Cowing our characters into submission. Like, my character's a hugely great will. I think his will's at 3, so...
Yeah, and mine's not going to be awesome, but it's going to be a little high. We'll have a little bit of defense against that, but there's also tricks.
Oh, yeah?
I mean, if you get a tricky little grubber in there, our defenses are good as a starting number.
Mm-hmm.
And if the GM just throws brute force guys at us, we're going to do rather well. But there's plenty of ways around that.
All right. So next we have assign your attributes. So you have 10 points. Everything starts at 1 except for your will, which will start at 2, and your attributes are agility, charisma, constitution, intellect, strength, and will.
Right. So I've got 10 points here. Well, I want a good agility because that is also my soak. So I'm going to throw that up to 4.
All right.
And I do want a decent charisma because I'm a swashbuckler. I should be a charismatic guy. So I'm going to bump that up to 3. So I have spent 5 points.
Yeah.
Constitution should be at least a 2.
All right.
Intellect should be at least a 2.
5, 6. So you're at 7.
So I've got 3 left. Right?
You do.
Okay. I'll tell you what. I'm going to bump Constitution to 3. I'll bump charisma to 4, and I'll bump will to 3.
And you're going to leave strength at 1.
Yeah, I am not strong. I am not a strong man.
Okay.
Clearly, I'm going to be using a finesse weapon because that's how I add damage and actually get to fight with dexterity instead of strength. If I use a finesse weapon,
and finesse weapons also use your dex for damage as opposed to your strength.
Right. So I'm clearly going to be a swashbuckler who is wielding a rapier, hopefully a rapier.
Yeah, someday.
A sharp, slim object of some kind, probably like a gaff hook, maybe, I don't know. But he's got some little like a knife, sharp butter knife, if nothing else.
That's right.
He's got some finesse weapon that he wields in his hand, but he is a scrawny Davian. I don't mind having a low attribute, at least in one thing, because then you can kind of play off of that, you know.
Exactly.
I imagine this guy to be kind of energetic and friendly, and he'd be like, "Oh, I'll help you lift that." And meanwhile, Haldren's over there like just.
That's right. Let me handle this. Which also plays into Haldren's desire to help defend his friends. He's like, oh, he's wiry, but I really need to get my shield.
Thinking more about that, actually, Constitution 3 doesn't make a lot of sense. I'm actually bringing that back down to a 2 and buy the agility up to 5.
Ooh, okay.
I'm gonna lean into it. He is a scrawny but fast as hell little.
That's right.
Little
wiry.
Yeah. I'm going to lean into it. I think if I once I identify kind of where I want to go, I like to push it a little further. Yeah, that Constitution of 2 is going to hurt me. Like my vitality is not going to be very high, but
But you get to use
hey,
agility for soak, so
I get to use agility for soak. So there's that. Yay!
and your defense is going to be, because your defense is normally your agility -1, so it's going to start at 4 +1 for the for being a Tavian, +1 for being a
Yeah.
and then if you so your defense
6.
will be 7 if you are standing next to Haldren.
Yes.
That's a pretty solid.
That's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
That's
For a
a
starting
solid
character,
defense.
it's almost like you designed the game. All right,
Well,
so
again, he's a glass cannon. Like, this is clearly
one
a character
hit.
who is-
You fight a fast foe or a cunning foe, and that's gonna hurt. So
Yeah, and area effect spells. I mean, there's again lots of options for the GM to throw my way. But if it's just a dude with a sword, there's a really good chance he's not going to be able to touch me. And I could probably pull off some, ha, you fool! You can't possibly put a blade on me.
I'm not left-handed.
Right?
All right, so now we're at skills, because you did not pick human as your species, so you don't necessarily start with a talent. So we're going to go into skills. You have 12 points to, again, assign between all of the different skills that we have. And remember, the tree of learning. So if you have a skill at 5, you need to have 1 point in 5 other skills. Or 4 other skills.
So I think I'm going to put 1 point in sleight of hand, because that would be a lot of fun. I'm going to put 2 points in stealth, because that makes a lot of sense. And I'm going to put 3 points in persuasion.
Okay.
So I've got 6 points spent so far. I'm going to put 4 points in fighting, because that gives me 4 skills. So now I have 2 left, and I could do athletics. It's tempting, but I could also do cunning or deception. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put 1 in perception, because you just always want 1 in perception. I am going to leave the athletics to Haldren. I'm going to leave it to him. So instead, I'm going to pick up a point in cunning. And I think the reason why I'm picking up a point in cunning is just to sort of represent that maybe he isn't a pirate, but he's sure studied them at least a little bit.
You've read about them.
Maybe he's read about them in a book. Who knows? So he's got a little bit of street smarts. So cunning 1, fighting 4, perception 1, persuasion 3. Pretty, people like him. Sleight of hand 1 and stealth 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 11, 12. Yep, there we go. That's my points.
All right. Well, so the next step, and this is the step where we discovered really who Haldren was last episode. So we're going to background. Now, you said you had an idea for background. So it sounds like you're not rolling on it. You have a very clear idea of what background you want for this character.
I am going to roll on the origins table. I'm going to roll a dice, but I have selected origin as the background that I want to roll on.
All right, so and so with origin, you get +1 vitality after this background is selected. So that's good for you. Yeah.
Like I was like, yeah, I want that vitality. Please don't kill me. And I think it would be interesting to see what happens here. So I'm going to roll a d6.
Okay.
I've got a handy little d6 here from
is it the Ratcon?
I have the Ratcon one. Trying to find it here. Okay, well, I'm gonna throw this one up. This is the local game store, Griffin Games. I'll be rolling through the Griffin Games dice. So d6, I got a 6.
All right, so that's the other origin.
That's the other origin. Oh god, this is gonna get really interesting.
So this is gonna get really weird for you. Go ahead and roll your d6.
This is okay. So to be clear, we actually set a whole sidebar aside for the other origin, because this is where the game master starts to get a headache. The other origin can get pretty weird. I wanted this as an option, like if somebody was like, "Oh, hey, I hadn't thought of that," or if they roll something randomly, like I just did, and it may change. Like this may change everything I've assumed about this character up to this point. So this next roll could be pretty impactful. Let's find out just what is going on with the other origin. Oh my God!
Would
I
you
got
get-
another 6.
You got another 6. So while you are a Tavian,
Yes.
you're also a risen. You were given a second chance at life. A circumstance that should have slain you instead only put you in a deep coma-like sleep. You've awakened, aware that the trauma should have killed you, but somehow did not. So what happened, Ross? So first of all, do you have a character name at this point? Because we keep referring
Ryoken.
to what was it?
Ryoken. Is my
Ryoken?
character name. Ryoken. And so I'm thinking Ryoken actually was a pirate and got tossed overboard during a storm and should have drowned. Like saw the lights, went all the way down to the bottom of the ocean, and then he's on a beach somewhere. And I don't know, maybe that's a thought. Maybe you could come up with this. We're supposed to work together on this. The game master can determine exactly why I'm alive when I should be dead.
Well, I mean, let's. Oh, all right. So if it were me, if I am running this game, we're gonna say that you woke up, and we're gonna lean into one, right? The seas of myth are really the domain of the Naga.
I was wondering about that.
And they are definitely kind of this Cthulhian. There's definitely some cosmic horror going on there with the goddess that they worship and the three sisters. So I'm going to say, you woke up on the beach in Naga nets, but really what's disturbing to you is I'm thinking on your left wrist there's a patch of Naga scales that look almost like an eye, and I feel like at the right moment it's gonna open and you're gonna see an eye on your wrist, and that's gonna just that would be the arc that I would take your character on, like looking for what's going on. Are the Naga spying through me? What is going on? Like a little body horror.
It puts that point and cunning into a whole new perspective,
right? And then if we got character art, we would have some sort of ribbon or bandage that's always on your character's sort of left hand, because you got to hide that very clear mark that something from the deep decided that it didn't want you dead and tossed you back up on shore.
Yeah, I think that's a really cool idea. I dig it. I think Ryoken is now probably pretty worried about that. He's like, I should be dead. At least I'm alive. But
what does this mean?
What does this mean? Like, probably gloves. It's like I'm going to invest in some gloves.
Well, and see, that's the thing I like about the background tables that you've made. We've instantly discovered something new about your character that could be like a pretty powerful arc for the campaign. Yeah,
and I have a good idea for Ryoken is. He's a guy who is enjoying his second chance at life to the fullest.
Yeah.
And that's why he's kind of exuberant and can't touch me. He's going to just really enjoy being alive, and probably going to be kind of an upbeat character. He's probably, when this is mentioned, he's like, oh, okay. Like the mystery surrounding his the patch of skin is going to be the part where he gets maybe a little down. But most of this time is like, hey, it could be worse, right?
Right.
It's gonna be a lot of discussions about like, well, this danger and that threat and this thing, and he'd be like, yeah, we're probably gonna beat him. It's gonna be fine. With me at your side, how can you lose?
That's right. All right, so let's ask a couple of finishing questions here.
Just ask the merciful. He has a bag full of mercy for you.
That's right,
my good friend.
So why did you pick will as opposed to strength? Like, what happened in Ryoken's life that he kind of leaned more into the willful Tavian side as opposed to the strong Tavian side?
Honestly, I want to just tie that into the near death, the death or near death experience, and just kind of say, before, he kind of was just sort of plodding through life, like, yeah, okay, I'm on a pirate ship with my family and doing pirate things, cool, but we're not really part of the main Tavian, and we're not part of the homeland, and he was just like, this is what life is. I'm fine with that. He had accepted his role. He was maybe not comfortable or content, but at least he didn't really see any point in exerting himself. But after he fell overboard, got sucked down the riptide, whatever, I'm still seeing desperately trying to claw for air in the bubbles, and then it all goes dark. Once that happened, he was like, I have a new lease on life. And that has represented itself in a sort of a little more determination, a little more confidence, and a little more strength of mind.
Okay. Now we've got our characters made. Let me ask you this. We would have to determine our campfire group. So if it's just Ryokan and Haldren, which campfire bonus are you leaning towards kind of our start?
Okay, well, that's an interesting question. Okay, so if we were going to do a campfire, well, first of all, we'd want a concept for the group.
Right.
Like, are we heroes? Are we mercenaries? This could change and evolve, but at least for the moment, like when we're sitting around the campfire telling our stories, are we, what are we thinking? Bandit chieftains, drinking buddies, explorers.
I like explorers. I think it ties into Haldren's desire to leave Blackwall and see what else is out there, and also your origin, where you're like, I need to figure out what this is. Maybe
challengers of the unknown kind of thing. We will go out there and
uncoverers of ancient secrets that So like explorers is kind of our starting point. Is a really good spot.
All right, so we are explorers, and with that in mind, I like the idea of. So in the pre-gens for the Lost Barrow, they chose body and mind, and they chose courage tests, and that's a really good thing to pick. I'm gonna suggest that as a possibility, is like maybe courage tests we get a bonus to. The alternative would be to go with something like teamwork. What do you think?
Well, I'm gonna say, to start off, we as this Challengers of the Unknown, I like the +1 to the courage test, so I'm fine with starting with that as our main starting point for.
Right, we are brave, explorers.
You can change it every time the party increases a rank. So for rank 1, I think +1 to courage tests is a really solid decision.
Jesus, I'm suddenly getting a vibe of Seahawk from She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. Adventure! He's just like, courage! We will have courage, and we face the darkness. Yes, I love it.
Perfect.
So that would be the bonus, I think, that we would go with on our campfire. We are the explorers of the unknown. We are brave wanderers. And pay no attention to this mark on my arm. Pay no attention to the low-born history of my friend Haldren.
That's right.
Yes. He's like, low-born.
What are you talking about?
to this uncouth soldier at my side.
Well, I think that is a great start. I mean, and you saw over two videos, we took maybe 40 minutes, and we came up with characters, the backgrounds, and kind of our reason for starting off on an adventure. So myth, there's a lot of choices in your character creation, but getting characters made and starting is really a one night, like, you can start your adventure the same night you make characters. It's a very easy process that still gives you a lot of depth to start with.
Absolutely. I have enjoyed this process. I think those rolls on the other column, I was like,
that was awesome.
I was not expecting that, but that changed everything. And I was originally kind of hoping for, just an origin that was going to place me in the Four Kingdoms. I was thinking like maybe we're both from Blackwall somehow. Maybe we're both from
you left up the chance, and you got a really good story out of it. That's
something weird and interesting, yeah. Because the other areas are basically just the other regions of the world, but a lot of those places are accessible by water. And I was thinking, maybe if I'd rolled like a Bard's College graduate, like I was like, that's got to be interesting.
Oh yeah.
what did I study there, right? Or Caravan Born would have been
Modern
another
dance.
strange one from Canis. But yeah, I kind of like taking. I wanted a twist,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why I chose Origin. Right. I wanted a twist that was something I wasn't quite expecting. If I had gone in with the idea that this was like, I think if I was going to play like an elf who's had a long history and kind of you already know where you're kind of from and things like that, I would almost lean more into accomplishment or mental
goal,
or
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, one of those three. I think it would be more what it's aiming for. Certainly, Spriggan I think would be interesting for the goal idea, for example. But yeah, that's the fun part about Myth is that we have a starting point, stories to tell, friends to make, places to explore.
That's right, for adventure.
For adventure. Ryokin and Huldren, and he's like got his arm around you, and you're like,
gotta keep that shield up though.
Yeah, God, the defense. Oh my gosh, we would be pretty much legendary amongst brigands. Like those guys, any brigands we find or not brigands, bandits. Any bandits that we fought on the road would just be like, they're untouchable.
We can't do
If we hit them, we can't hurt them, and if we can barely hit them as it is. And meanwhile, we're like, ha, ho, ha, clang, 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 clang.
Yep.
Honestly, yeah, geez, we made some effective we made 2 effective tanks.
Yeah.
I think is what we made. I'd really love to see, if somebody else came to this party, I think they would be like, I'm going to make a healer, or I'm going to make a spellcaster of some kind would be great. Yeah. We'd be in a good spot for that. Well, that's going to bring us to the end of this second episode. Again, hey, check out the other stuff on Ulysses International channel. We got a lot of great shows, and JM is running some fantastic streaming shows. Torg will probably still be going on when this was out. I think we just...
Torg's still... We're not anywhere near the end of that story, but we will be, at this point, I think we'll be back to the the Fading Suns game, when this one goes live. So tune in and check out the go back. There's a ton of back episodes. At this point, we'll have like 17 episodes of Torg and many, 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 many weeks of Fading Suns to go back and look at. So yeah,
for sure. So until next time,
keep telling stories.